This talk, good evening everyone. This talk is for more than an hour, but because of a little bit of a mix-up, I may have to end at 9 o'clock, unless you guys are willing to go till 9:30. Can do? No parties tonight? Okay. Usually I like to have the audience closer to me because it makes it more warm and you can connect better. But for you guys out there, especially those in the back, see if you can make eye contact, because that way you will understand the teachings much better. Yeah? Okay, so try not to hide behind somebody else and make eye contact. Okay, the title of the talk this evening is No One Who Lives in Error is Free. Let's see what this means. Imagine yourself at a beautiful restaurant on a bright sunny day. The windows are open, beautiful outside, and next to you is a couple having their meal. Okay, you're in this bright sunny day at a restaurant, and the couple next to you is having their meal. And while your meal is being served, you're just looking around and you notice this huge cockroach coming in from the window, and it lands on the gentleman's hand. And he obviously flicks it away with disgust. And the thing is, when he flicks it away, it lands on his wife's hair. And she goes into a bit of a fit. And just then, the waitress comes along and gently picks up the cockroach and takes it away. Now the question for you is, sorry, Indian cough. Why did the couple behave in this negative fashion towards that cockroach? Disgust, repulsion, fear. Why? Why did that happen? And please, if you're answering, answer loudly so everyone can hear. Pardon me? It was a big, nasty one. Pardon me? The cockroach has germs on it. Okay. They're conditioned to behave that way. All right? They were not in touch with their inner strength. There we go. Yes. Whereas the waitress was, because she responded to the cockroach differently. Yeah? Now, these cockroaches we experience in the course of a day. Things which annoy us, things which don't go according to our preferences, and so forth. And do you think that it is appropriate for us to respond to these irritations with negativity? Is that the right approach to living? To constantly be complaining and criticizing and judging and fearing and doubting when the cockroaches appear in our lives? That's really not the way we were meant to respond to life's changing faces. So, it is easy to see our visible means of support in this world. Easy to see our visible means of support in this world. Food, clothing, shelter, medicine, people, finances, and so forth. Easy to see this visible means of support. But how many people are aware of their invisible means of support? And what is your invisible means of support? The joy within us. Okay. What else? Pardon me? Peacefulness. Okay. Values. The right values. Okay. Our invisible means of support is this beautiful mind we are born with. But not just the mind, but the mind that is in harmony with natural laws and processes. Not the untrained mind. The untrained mind usually becomes the greatest obstacle to our growth and well-being. It is the mind that is in harmony with, and it is in harmony with natural laws and processes because it is trained to be so. That's what the Buddhist teachings are about, the training of the mind. Now, in order for us to train our mind to be in harmony with life, there are 4 errors we need to avoid in order to make progress in this world. Yeah, 4 errors. We'll look at them this evening. The first error, massive, monumental error to avoid, is the deferring of wisdom in favor of everything else. You understand the word deferring? Postponing. The postponing of being wise and loving in favor of family and friends and vocation and whatever else that we think is important. Now, why is this a monumental error to defer wisdom in favor of everything else? Pardon me? The karmic result. Okay. Well, the deferring of wisdom in our lives is a monumental error because eventually, over time, it becomes a learning disability. A learning disability is when we are unable to learn from our mistakes or the mistakes of others. It becomes a learning disability. Basically, we're not able to choose wisely. Regardless of the repeated errors and the suffering those errors bring into our lives, we cannot change direction. A learning disability. Now, in order to counteract this learning disability, the first thing we need to do for the growth and expansion of our consciousness is to commit ourselves to deep learning. Deep learning. On the Noble Eightfold Path, right understanding is the first factor, for those of you who are familiar with the path. Right understanding. It comes through deep learning. If you will notice in your own life, you will see just how much boredom and restlessness you possibly experience in the course of a day. Yeah? Because of the boredom and restlessness, we keep ourselves busy. We keep ourselves distracted. We keep ourselves living on the surface of life. So, to counteract that tendency, deep learning basically allows us to make music out of our moments, to see the beauty and the magnificence in the simplest of things, which people who get bored easily are unable to see or unable to experience. Deep learning allows us to make music out of our moments. Without that learning, life is pretty bland, fearful, resentful, negative oriented. So, to give you an example of how deep learning allows us to make music out of our moments, imagine this. Imagine that you are a great pianist. Yeah, you've trained over the years and you are able to enthrall your audience. So on this particular night, you're giving a performance, 500 people in the room, and after your performance, everyone is just absolutely in rapture with the music you created for them, you played for them. Now the question is, where did that music come from? Where did that enthralling music come from? Remember, this is a Dharma class. You have to speak in full sentences, not half sentences. And my questions are a little bit like that. Think. You've just played an incredible piece of music and the audience is enthralled. They give you a standing ovation. Where did that enchanting music come from? Are you guys asleep? With your eyes open? Muscle memory through repeated practice. Very good, but that's half a statement. What's the full statement? Okay, still half a statement. Where did the music come from? Beautiful. The music arose not just from the person, but from the confluence of the two, between the person and the piano, the merging of the two, right? Without the person, the piano has no music, and with just the piano and whatever, no music. Both have to be present, correct? Okay. The piano represents life. Life. And in order to make music out of our moments, we need that training. In the absence of the training, you touch that piano, you will not be playing music, you'll be creating noise. So deep learning not only makes our moments exceptionally interesting and beautiful, it also safeguards us from making disastrous choices that can lead to our long-term suffering. And thirdly, deep learning allows us to be in harmony with life. Being in harmony with life, we walk in grace in this world. We are protected. Things happen for us in ways which are absolutely magical. Things come to us unbidden. You just have to not even think about something, and it just happens for you magically. That's the beauty of deep learning, of being in harmony with life instead of being in conflict with it. Right understanding on the Noble Eightfold Path is an essential factor for living well in this world. Yeah? Okay. So what I have just said is this. What I have just said points to the old rule that our circumstances will not and cannot change for the better unless we do. We're trying to change things out there, the person, the situation, the vocation, the whatever. Our circumstances cannot and will not change for the better until we do. And we will only change for the better when we acquire the right life philosophy and methods for making the rest of our life the best of our life. We need the right philosophy. We don't need the philosophy that puts us on a treadmill that goes nowhere. Are you clear? Okay. Now, just acquiring the right philosophy and methods is not enough. Because learning something new does not necessarily drive new results. what is always required is a daily discipline that is rooted in love. In the absence of love, there will be no daily discipline. And without the daily discipline, your practice will be wishy-washy, for sure. Why is daily discipline so important? Well, let's look at it. The signature or hallmark of mediocrity and failure is not just an unwillingness to learn or to grow. The signature of mediocrity and failure is also chronic inconsistency. Chronic inconsistency. No human endeavor can succeed at the highest level when there is chronic inconsistency and a tenacious unwillingness to learn and to grow. So without a disciplined methodology behind our actions, we will inevitably be blindsided by life. You'll wonder why. I've done all my best to be happy, but things are not working. But the things are not working is because the discipline of being wise and loving is not present. The daily discipline aimed at being wise and loving is not present, and therefore we keep getting blindsided by life when we could do better, we could choose better. So please keep in mind the importance of deep learning. And deep learning, please understand, is not just an intellectual appreciation of life. Deep learning is very much about making time each day to unplug from our busyness. To unplug from our busyness and to center ourselves in stillness for our innate wisdom to emerge. Because your wisdom will not talk to you, your innate wisdom will not talk to you for as long as your mind is oscillating between likes and dislikes. There has to be a stillness, not just physically, but also inwardly. That daily discipline, if it is not present, will not yield the insights necessary for you to connect well with the world. And it's all about insight. It's all about awakening. Without awakening, we are just basically sleepwalking through life and missing out on the magnificence that exists within and around us in every moment. Okay, so that's the first thing. Please let go of the error of deferring wisdom in favor of everything else. It's a huge mistake to make. I'll meditate later. I'll practice later. I'll read that book later. Now, if you really want to experience life at its best. Being wise and loving has to be top priority. Awakening has to be top priority. Okay. The second huge error that most people engage in is this. We believe that it is all right for us to engage in negative states of mind through the day without suffering the consequences of doing so. We believe it's okay to not just engage in negative states of mind, but to have positive feelings of the conditional variety. We love conditionally, we're happy conditionally, we're happy when things happen for us, otherwise we're unhappy. Yeah? This is a monumental error, to allow our emotional states to run rampant without channeling the emotions correctly. So, to counteract this tendency, what is required is deep loving. Deep, deep loving, unconditional variety. Wise people tell us that it is not so much the negative emotions we feel in the course of the day that cause us so much harm, as much as the absence of the positive, elevating emotions. That's what causes us the greatest harm. Did you hear that? I'll say it again. It's not just your negativity that causes you harm, it's the absence of enthrallment, the absence of rapture, the absence of bliss, the absence of all the high emotions which we are capable of feeling, but which we don't feel in the course of the day because we are not trained to. In the Buddhist teachings, you guys must know of the 4 Brahma Viharas. Yeah? Loving kindness meditation, sympathetic joy, compassion, and equanimity. Practicing these emotions allows you to place yourself in elevated states. It is one thing to marry the person you love, but it is another thing altogether to cherish the person you marry for the rest of your life. And the only way you can cherish that person that you married for the rest of your life is by training your mind to do so. It is one thing to have a great job, and another thing altogether to have your greatness emerge from your vocation instead of stress and resentment and disharmony. Important to root ourselves in the positive emotions. Tell me, suppose one day you wake up and you decide to try an experiment. And you take your arm and you put it in a sling. Yeah? And you decide that you're some kind of great yogi and you're not going to use that arm. And you leave it in that sling for weeks and for months. What's going to happen to that arm? You do not use this arm. Okay, it's in a sling. What's going to happen to that arm? Yeah. What will happen is that nature will remove all the muscles and the sinews and make your arm pretty much useless. You won't be able to use that arm. Use it or lose it, as we know, is part of nature's laws. But when you decide, oh, okay, this was not the best choice, and I have to start using my arm again, and you start to massage it and look after it and start to use it again, nature will restore what she took away from you. Yeah, that's natural laws. So what do you think happens when you place your mind in the sling of idleness, in the sling of resentment and fear and doubt and greed and all those other negative emotions? You place your mind in that sling, what do you think nature is going to do for you? What nature will do is, it will give you more of what you focus on, the fear, the doubts, the resentments. It'll give you more of what you focus on, and it will remove your ability to experience those higher emotions. Even though you're in front of something beautiful, you can't really see it. Why? Because your mind gets veiled, and you're unable to perceive your magnificence and the magnificence of the world around you. But to the extent that you place yourself in the right context of learning, to the extent that you place yourself in the right context of learning and start to be alive again, nature will restore what it took away from you. And you will be able to see the beauty and the profundity in the smallest of things. You don't need anything complex. You don't need to buy anything. Just your breath will give you an ecstasy if you can focus on it correctly. Yeah? So it's all a matter of perception. It's all a matter of what are you focusing on. So this, again, points to an old rule that nature or life can only do for you what it can do through you. Nature or life can only do for you what it can do through you. And unless you provide nature with the appropriate consciousness, it cannot and will not reveal its magnificence to you. Are you understanding? It's not that life is difficult. We are being difficult with life by not being in harmony with it. There's beauty everywhere. Even in the worst case scenario, there's something magnificent right there. But you can't see it because you've not trained yourself to do so. Yeah. So I'll repeat this again, this law in life, that nature can only do for you what it can do through you. And unless you provide nature with the appropriate consciousness, it cannot and will not reveal its splendor, its magnificence to you. Cannot. You have to cooperate with it. The music is not in the piano, the music is not in here, it's in the confluence of the two. So unless you touch life correctly, life cannot really bless you with all that it has to bless you with. Not possible. There has to be that harmony, there has to be synchronicity with it. So, when you go home, or whenever, do your best to minimize and then to eliminate all tendencies to complain about anything whatsoever. Because in truth, everything is perfect the way it is. Eliminate that tendency to criticize, to judge, to be resentful. Because you're harming yourself immensely in the process of doing so. You're putting your mind in that sling where another reality cannot open for you. The reality of health and happiness cannot open for you. So the only way forward, dear friends, the only way forward is inward. The only way forward is not running out there doing things. The only way forward is inwards, to learn how to be perceptive, to be loving, to be kind, gentle, generous, and all that is finest in you, to allow that to emerge. That's the only way forward. Through that stillness, which is practiced on a consistent level, not when you're in the mood to do so. Because that wishy-washy practice will not do much for you. It has to be consistent. Okay, let's move on to the third point. The third monumental error most people engage in is the Lone Ranger mentality. Are you familiar with that one? The Lone Ranger mentality. I'm going to do it my way. I don't need anybody else. Although you alone can do it, you cannot do it alone. You always need guidance from somebody else. Yeah? This Lone Ranger mentality of being independent and not asking for help from anybody else has to be jettisoned out of your consciousness. So, what's the antidote to this? The antidote to this is deep friendships. Deep, loving, caring friendships with those around us. Let me explain why it's important. Have any of you ever experienced bouts of irrationality? Have you ever experienced bouts of being unreasonable? Have you thrown a tantrum ever in your life? Well, never. Yeah. Quite a few saints in here, actually. And when you were in this unpleasant mode, did you want the person in front of you to judge you and to push you away, to reject you? Or did you want some understanding? Did you want that space to just be a bit of an idiot at times? Yeah? We all seek acceptance from others regardless of how unreasonable or how difficult we are to be with. We don't want to be judged. We want to be accepted. And we even want to be loved. That's called being unreasonable, but yes, it's possible. We all have our own history that we carry with us. And it is in our best interest that regardless of how distressing the person is in front of us, how distressing a situation is in front of us, it's important for us to embrace that aspect of life also. And not just to embrace its beautiful sides, because it has both sides, the distressing side and the pleasant side. So when we make it a practice to love all beings, regardless of where they are, we not only increase our emotional bank account, we not only allow ourselves to be in higher states of mind, but we also increase our luck factor. Yeah? We become extremely fortunate. You know the story in the Bible about the Good Samaritan? Some of you? Okay. That Good Samaritan who helped the fellow who had been beaten and robbed and left to die on the side of the road was a stranger, complete stranger who came to this fellow's aid. You never know where help can come from. It may not be always from those you love and care for and cherish. Very often it is the stranger who can come to your aid. And when you allow yourself to connect with the world correctly, as I said earlier, you walk in grace in this world. Things happen for you in ways which you cannot even plan or imagine. And we all need aid from other people to progress in this world with all its different challenges. The luck factor. When it comes to being lucky or fortunate, most people think of luck as a what factor. It's not just a what factor, it's also a who factor. Most significantly, it is who we know, who we connect with. And not just who we know, but just having that default setting of accepting all beings, that stranger could be our best guide sometimes to assist us when we need the assistance. So of all the luck we can aim for, people luck is the greatest. Having the right partner, the right mentor, the right friend, the right leaders, that kind of luck allows you to go through this world much more smoothly than not having wise counseling from people who could assist you. And we all go through life's dark moments. We all have to face those dark moments. And having the right person there for support is as important, as vital, as a canteen of water in the desert when you're lost and thirsty. As important. So when we have the right guidance from people, when we have the right support, even from a stranger, that right support can often allow us to turn our bad luck or difficulty into something, into one of the best things that happened. Are you understanding a little bit? Let me give you an example. Many years ago, when I was in college in the US, the first year in college, I had a very difficult time with the dean of my faculty, for whatever reasons. And it made me quite depressed. Very depressed, as a matter of fact. But fortunately, I had made friends with this Japanese fellow. His name was Rumio. Beautiful guy. He was in the photography section, I was in the design section. And Rumio kept telling me, Behram-san, why you don't come for this seminar? It is going to change your life. I said, oh no, I'm not interested. He was talking about the EST seminar. Have you heard of EST? It is now called Landmark Forum. EST at that time in the 80s, 70s, 80s, Earhart Seminar Training, EST. Powerful training. He said, Behram, you need it. And I said, no, and I resisted his guidance for a few months till I really got into a dark mood. Then in January 1980, I joined that program. EST. 500 people in this large conference room, 4 trainers to handle 500 people. Let me tell you, it was one of the best choices I could have ever made in my life. And all thanks to Rumio. And all, not just thanks to Rumio, all thanks to the dean. Because if he had not made my life miserable, I would not have joined that seminar. And in that seminar in January 1980, I discovered my calling. And you have no idea how beautiful it is to be in touch with your calling. Because although I was a pretty good designer, I knew I was not meant to be a designer. There was something else I had to do with my life. And I found what I had to do with my life, which is here to make you guys confused. Yeah? What an amazing thing to know that this is why you are born, to do this particular thing, nothing else. So I teach, not because of some money or whatever, I teach because of the incredible joy it gives me to share the teachings with others and to watch them grow into their best. That's why I teach. You couldn't pay me to do something else. That's when you're in touch with your calling, when you're not working for money, but you're working for love. So, with the right support from others, you become extremely fortunate. I was so fortunate to be in Los Angeles at that time and to have that dean push me towards that seminar. What an incredible fortune. Wow. When I have my center, I'm going to have that dean's photograph up there. As a person who, well, he modeled for me all the things I don't want to do with my life. Deep friendships, please. You cannot do it alone. The triple gem, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha. What is Sangha? Deep friendships. Deep friendships with people who can guide you towards making better choices. In the absence of having these people, you will, by default, because of the conditioning around you, you will continue towards making faulty choices. And there we come to the fourth point. Another monumental faulty choice is this. Actually, I'm galloping through the talk, okay? The fourth error that needs to be avoided is to shackle ourselves to aspirations that can never fulfill us, and to not be willing to change direction. That's the fourth error. To shackle ourselves to aspirations that can never fulfill us, and to not be willing to change direction for the better. Which is the monumental aspiration which most people shackle themselves to, which can never fulfill you? Pardon me? Winning the lotto, yeah. Pardon me? Possessions. Stuff. Is that what you said? Stuff. Okay. Pardon me? Sorry, please speak louder. I can't hear so well. Attempting to change other people. Trying to control things, okay? Most people rely only on their visible means of support for their happiness. Food, clothing, shelter, medicine, people, vocation. Yeah? Most people rely only on their visible means of support for their happiness. People have families, they're still depressed. People have friends, they're still not happy. They have a great job, still not good enough. They have everything, and still they seek something else. That's to shackle yourself to aspirations that can never fulfill you. Deferring of wisdom comes in again. So to counteract this tendency, what is required is deep living. Not shallow living, not just on the surface, not just on things which are tangible. Deep living. There's more to life than meets your senses. Lots more to life than meets your senses. And you're completely tuned out of that channel. Most people are. My assistant in the back there, Sherry, the one with the halo, being there, okay. She worked in the airline industry for 31 years. One of the best secretaries in Bombay at the time. And she had a beautiful family, all the perks of being the secretary of the boss, free tickets to anywhere in the world. And yet, she knew that there was more to life, but she just didn't know what it was. And she didn't really attempt to know what it was because she was convinced that having trained as a secretary, that's all she could do with her life, basically, in terms of her vocation. Then in December 1994, a friend brought her to one of my classes. And in the class, some little light started to sparkle in her brain. And she came for the next class, and the next class, and the next class. And soon, she was doing her practice daily, consistently, in a dedicated fashion. She discovered, through that dedicated practice, that there was a lot more she could do than what she was actually doing. And she discovered her power to heal people. So she did Reiki, pranic healing, massage. Now she does reconnective healing, and she does access consciousness. And the amazing things, amazing transformations she's brought into people's lives is absolutely fantastic. But this she could only do because of her deep learning, her deep love, and her friendships with others, and her willingness to live deeply. She discovered her calling. So after a few days of meeting with me, she quit her job and she started working with me full time. And she just absolutely loves what she's doing, and she's not doing it for the money, because I'm not paying her anything anyway. Yeah, okay. Some years ago, people who do such research, they interviewed people who were earning $100,000 a year to see if they were happy and if they felt that they were rich. Hey, do you feel rich? You're earning $100,000 a year. No, not at all. I don't feel I'm rich, and I'm not really happy either. So what would make you happy and what would make you feel rich? Well, if I was earning double the amount, then I'd be okay. Oh, right, so $200,000, that's the formula for happiness and richness. Okay, so they went and found some fellows who were earning that amount. Do you feel rich and happy? No, I'm quite miserable actually. So what would make you feel rich and happy? Oh, if I was earning double the amount. So, $400,000. So they went and interviewed someone with $400,000, same answers. And then they came to someone who was earning $800,000, and that guy also said, those fellows also said, no, if I was earning double, then I'd be okay. They finally gave up, yeah, the researchers. Because that's not the formula for happiness. That's not the formula for deep living. Rockefeller, one of the most richest men in the world at the time, when he made his millions, he was asked towards the end of his life, you're still working. How much more money do you need? You've got enough. Why are you still working? And he said, I just need a little more money, then I'll be okay. A little more. Oh my God. Shackling ourselves to aspirations that can never fulfill us, especially shackling ourselves to money. Oh God, worst shackle you can find. Imagine yourself at a job interview. There are 10 other people in the room waiting for the interview along with you, and all those 10 are almost equally qualified, but you are a little more qualified than they are. You know your job a little better than they do. Now, when you go into the interview room to meet those people, you think you've done your best, but they don't select you. Why? You're more qualified, but they don't select you. Why? They select one of those other fellows. What could be the reason for this? Too much superiority complex. Okay?
They selected somebody
They selected someone with better personal qualities. Beautiful. You see, people generally do not buy how good you are at what you do. They often buy how good you are at what you are. What kind of person are you? Everybody wants to be the great leader and the great manager and the great whatever, but how many people are just committed to being great themselves in terms of their personal qualities? So, most of us, sadly enough, are not very good at what we are in our personal and professional lives. We're not very good at what we are in our personal and professional lives. And why is that? Why so many dysfunctional families? Why so much divorce? Why so much conflict? What's going on? It is because we are more concerned about the next best thing than we are about bettering ourselves. Yeah? The next best distraction, the next best thing out there is more important than making sufficient time to discover what is finest in us. That's what's happening. Please understand that every moment that passes is not just a moment in time. Every moment that passes is also a moment of choice. Every moment that passes is not just a moment in time, it is also a moment of choice. And the seemingly insignificant choices we make daily, insignificant choices we make daily, add up over time to create the quality of our lives. And if we're not happy with the quality of our lives, we need to examine those seemingly insignificant choices, because they're not insignificant. Those tiny, tiny choices we make have a compound effect that create a lot of difficulties for us. It's not what we have, it's not what we do that really matters. What really matters is what we become from our having and doing. If we're not becoming more generous, more kind, more loving, more connected to life, we have been wasting our moments. It's not what we have and it's not what we do that makes the real difference in being happy. What makes the difference is what we become from our having and doing. And when we become wiser, more loving, more dedicated to personal excellence, that's when life showers upon us all that is best in this world, unbidden. Trust me, it just comes to you unbidden. You can't plan it. During my days of practice, I traveled to different countries to deepen my understanding of the teachings. I'm an Indian citizen, and during my days of practice, I didn't have much money. Being an Indian citizen and not having much money is a little bit of a handicap. Anyway, I was in Sri Lanka at the time, at a Buddhist meditation center in Kandy, nice hilly area. And I could not renew my visa to stay longer. 3 months is all I had. Nobody wants you after 3 months if you don't have the money. Now, I always had the aspiration to go to Japan to practice Zen meditation, but I didn't really have much money. However, my brother at the time was living in the UK, is still there. He had told me some years ago, Behram, when you come to that point in your life, when you really need some money, you can ask me. Because if I had your guts, I would also have thrown everything away and done what you're doing. But I don't have your guts. So I'm there to just support you. But you do the walking, I'll do the viewing. So I called him and said, I want to go to Japan. Will you support that? And he said, yes, I'll send you the ticket, I'll send you some money. No worries. But where would I go in Japan? I knew nobody there. So luckily he said, well, my sister-in-law, she's there. Not sister-in-law. Sister-in-law? Okay. His wife's sister. She's there, she'll look after you for a while till you get your bearings. I said, okay, thanks. And yet I didn't know which monastery I would go to. And while I was there, out of the blue, unbidden, this fellow comes straight from Japan to Kandy. German fellow, shaved head, wearing black clothes. And we became friends. And he tells me, you know, I've just come from this incredible monastery in Obama. And you must meet the teacher there. He's fantastic. So, wow, something's opening up for me. I wanted to go to Japan, and here's this fellow coming and telling me about a fantastic monastery where I could practice. He was there just for a week. He gave me the information, and then he disappeared. I wish I knew his name to thank him. So I had the money, and I had a destination to go to. And my time in Japan was absolutely fantastic in that monastery. So, please, ladies and gentlemen, when you're committed to right practice, it always leads to a brilliant destiny that is practically inevitable. This is where a remarkable life is not just something you hope for, it is something that is virtually guaranteed. It is guaranteed if you're walking the path correctly, not in a wishy-washy fashion, correctly. Deep learning, deep loving, deep friendships, deep living, and you're cruising. But it requires love, because without the love, that commitment will not be there. The word philosophy comes from the old Greek root. It means the love of wisdom. Acquire the right philosophy. Acquire that love for wisdom. And watch how it holds you. Watch what it can do for you. The love for all the material things, it's okay. But it's your invisible means of support. That's where your focus has to be. The mind that is in tune with natural laws and processes. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening. Any questions? No questions? Oh, fantastic. Okay, I have a couple of announcements to make. I'm giving another talk here tomorrow, maybe not in this room, but in that room. If we have a large enough audience, maybe we can squeeze in here. The talk tomorrow is from 5 to 7 o'clock. So that's one thing. And then I'm offering a weekend workshop the following weekend, 14th and 15th, full day from 9:30 to 5:30. If you can make it for that, much better. The deep learning, please understand. So, and those of you who are interested in the workshop, Sherry is over there. Please just put your names down. And the early bird offering is till midnight of Tuesday. If you come after that, well, it'll be the late bird prices. Another thing, if you would like to be on my mailing list, Sherry is there also. You can put your names down. And the third thing is that I usually offer one-on-one sessions with people. If you would like to make friends, it's free of cost. I live in Bigton, Fremantle. That also, Sherry will give you a timing. On Sunday I'm meeting people, then on Tuesday and Wednesday. If you'd like to come and make friends, please come. If you have questions about your practice, we can talk about that, and we can also talk about the wine that you like. Right? Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening. Bye. Oh, last but not least, I've written a book and published a book. I have just a few copies here. If you would like to purchase the book, it's right there.